Well, hey everyone, my name is Nathan Jones, and if you're new here, welcome. I like to talk about all things movies, specifically Blu-rays, and today is something super special. I'm actually reviving an old series of mine called the Favorite Series. So the Favorite Series is something where I go in my top 10, or maybe today, top 5, of a specific topic. So that topic could be a film genre, a director, whatever it needs to be. That's what I like to talk about. But today is super exciting because I'm talking about boutique labels. Blu-ray boutique labels, DVD and Blu-ray boutique labels, they are the ones that release all of the films that we love. If you're a fan of this channel or a fan of the community, you know that all of us really love art house, cult classic films, all of these different types of varieties of films, B-movies, hard to find films, etc. Without further ado, let's talk about my top 5 boutique labels. Now, before I jump into that, I would like to have some honorable mentions and also talk a little bit about boutique labels in general, talking about kind of the overview of why I like boutique labels. Now, I'm going to be saying boutique labels way too much, honestly. Boutique labels, boutique labels. But the thing I really like about boutique labels is the fact that special features and supplements exist. Supplements like audio commentary, or you might even get a film essay on the film itself. You might have restorations, a 2K or a 4K restoration of a picture that may or may not have too much care given to it, or maybe it was lost at one point and it's been revived and the footage has been restored and, you know, taken care of. That's the thing we love about these labels, is that they're the ones who care for the films. Now, when I talk about each of these particular companies that are putting out all these movies, I like to share and showcase the fact that we really love these labels and the fact that physical media still exists, and that's what I love most about what we're talking about today. Now, before we jump into our honorable mentions, I would like to say that a lot of these picks that I have for the honorable mentions particularly are films, companies that I actually don't have terribly too many works from. I am still just starting into a lot of these ventures, and so I'm just really excited to showcase what those look like. Obviously, I'm at the beginning, so that's an exciting time because I can keep discovering things. So let's just begin. So the first thing that I want to mention is Cohen Film Media Group. So the Cohen Film Media Group, this right here is Howard's End, which is also a Criterion as well, which is out of print. But this one right here is Cohen Film Media, and they have a lot of extra features, a collectible booklet, deluxe disc features, Q&A with on-stage production of the film, featurettes, documentaries, etc. So this is an example of what I'm talking about, and also just a really beautiful showcasing of a film. Another film boutique label that I really enjoy that I'm just jumping into, and there's one right over here as well, is Indicator. This is from the UK. This right here is The Legacy, a cult classic film, a horror film that I'm so excited to check out with Sam Elliott. I actually still have not seen this movie yet, but right over there is actually a Hammer Volume 5, Death and Deceit, Indicator. So this is from the UK, so this is a region B, so it's a little bit harder for me living in the US to get these particular titles, but I'm super excited to jump into this and delve further into it. So another example of a boutique label that I really enjoy is Studio Canal. So right here is Akira Kurosawa's 1985 Ran, which is a really great addition. It has a lot of special features. Studio Canal usually has quite a bit of extra features that come with the film itself, but this right here is really great. Looks kind of standard-ish when it comes to its presentation, but it's really definitely worth it. Moving right along for honorable mentions, I also have Twilight Time. Twilight Time is now unfortunately defunct. It just went out of business, or was about to go out of business. They just had a sale. Right here is Don't Bother to Knock, a film noir with Marilyn Monroe that I'm excited to check out. This is actually, I recently, if you had watched my channel, had picked up this film, and so I can't wait to dive further into some Twilight Time pictures, but they're notoriously known for going out of print, so, and now they definitely will be, unfortunately. And then the last boutique label that I want to give honorable mentions to is one that I'm super excited to delve further into, and honestly, like I said, I am just starting. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about Eureka, Masters of Cinema. Now this is another UK specific boutique label, but this one right here, Sunrise, is one of the biggest films in that collection. In fact, it's spine number 1. So that's how big of a deal it is. And honestly, I want to give a big shout out to Elliot Cohen for really getting me involved with Eureka. And I have other titles coming on the way, but like I said, they're expensive. And so, you know, that's why I just am beginning this journey with these films. So now that we got all of those honorable mentions out of the way, let's talk about my top 5 boutique labels. So we're going to start with number 5. So number 5, very much like Masters of Cinema, is based in the UK. In fact, I have very few titles that I own particularly, but I'm super excited to delve further into, and honestly, this label will probably jump up further and further as the more and more films that I pick up from them. What am I talking about? I'm talking about Arrow Films. Specifically talking about Arrow Academy and Arrow Video. Now, these are two legs of Arrow Films. They have different types of films that are involved. So where like Arrow Academy has maybe more art house cinema that exists, where Arrow Video might have some horror, hard to find gems, etc. For instance, I have 3 films to showcase what that looks like and that diversity in their lineup. So the first one I actually have is Cinema Paradiso. This is a great Italian film about the love of movies, and this is actually my first Arrow film. This was the one that I picked up. I didn't even realize that Arrow existed as a boutique label. I didn't know that there were boutique labels besides the one behind me that we'll talk about later. And so, as you can see, I'm very proud to have this as my first Arrow, and it's such an amazing film, and it has a ton of special features. In fact, you can see it right here. There's a paragraph of different special features with 2 discs, a new restored edition, so many different things involved, and a really nice booklet as well. It's a fantastic, and it also has a reversible cover, something I'll show you more about when we talk about further Arrow stuff. Speaking of stuff, the stuff. This is Arrow Video. So Arrow Video, not just art house cinema, not just foreign films, it also has classic horror films, maybe the B side of horror films, ones that are like a combination of The Thing meets consumerism. And so that's what the stuff really showcases. This is like a region B, like I said. And like I said a little bit earlier, there's some reversible covers here that are really, really cool. And that's the thing about Arrow, is that they have a really great presentation to their design, and it's just beautiful, honestly. And I can't wait to delve further into this. And so the last film that I want to showcase is a film that I actually recently picked up. It's films, plural, because I actually got a trilogy from them. This is the Family Values trilogy by Hirokazu Koreeda, and I'm super excited to delve into this. Like I said, this has a reversible cover just like the other Arrow films, but this is an Arrow Academy, and I'm just very excited to delve further into Arrow Video, Arrow Academy, and get more and more films as they come from overseas. But that's why it's number 5, is because I actually don't have very many myself. Let's move straight along to number 4. Moving to number 4, we're back in America. We're actually talking about a leg of a really big company. And that really big company is Warner Brothers. They have a boutique label for video releases called Warner Archive Collection. And right here I have 3 films that showcase what that looks like. So they have films like classics, Howard Hawks classics, a lot of American classics, like To Have and Have Not, Lauren Bacall and Humphrey Bogart. There are a lot of films that exist that's what Warner Archive has. They have, the rights to a lot of these classic films that exist from the golden age of Hollywood. And this is just a great noir to showcase what that looks like. They also have some other films like The Hidden, a science fiction thriller combination of films that almost reminds you of Lethal Weapon mixed with The Thing. So I guess it's more of like an action science fiction. It's really, really cool. So they have like B movies like The Hidden. And they also even have dramas like Fearless, a Jeff Bridges really great classic that is really underrepresented and honestly I think is definitely overlooked. And it's got really great performances by Rosie Perez and Isabella Rossellini as well. So yeah, this just showcases what Warner Archive has, and they have a lot of diverse lineup. Some of them I haven't shown you. They even have the Hammer Horror Dracula. They have about half of those that exist in the collection. And so they know how to showcase classic films, B movies, and even some horror films that exist as well. So let's move along from number 4 to number 3. Moving right along to number 3 is a company that existed since 1977, but in 2009 they joined together with their arts production company to make Kino Lorber. Kino Lorber and Kino International, which is the company that exists kind of overall, has quite a bit of films. They have a lot of art house films, foreign films, documentaries, but most importantly, they have silent films. That's probably the biggest namesake about Kino, is they have silent films. And here is an example right here of one of those silent films from the great German Expressionism. This is Fritz Lang's Metropolis. They also even have Nosferatu, which is F.W. Murnau's Nosferatu from 1921, and Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, another Fritz Lang classic, and among so many other different types of silent films, from Buster Keaton onward. And right here, actually, is Pioneer's first women's filmmaker, a really great set of 50 films from women filmmakers from that silent era. They just have a history to them, and that's what's really cool about them. And then they even can delve further to more contemporary works from like the 70s or the 90s. So, for instance, I have two ones right here. I have The Long Goodbye, Robert Altman's 70s classic with Elliot Gould, and I even have Barton Fink, that classic film by the Coen brothers that really isn't talked about enough. And both of these films right here just represent the breadth and diversity that Kino Lorber has. But the unfortunate thing about Kino Lorber, and that's the reason why it's number 3, is that the special features generally, you know, they don't really present themselves as great works. And so that's the thing, is the special features are a little bit lacking, but it'll make up for it in the different types of films that they are able to present and show us and showcase. And that's the cool thing about Kino Lorber. So let's move on from there to my number 2 boutique label. Well, my number 2 boutique label is actually one that I'm still getting accustomed to myself, and they have such a diversity lineup to them. There's actually a big company that exists, but they're more known for their side company that is like an arm of them. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Shout Factory. And more explicitly, I'm talking about Scream Factory, which is like a leg of their company. And both of them have different diversity of types of films that they want to represent. Shout Factory, they are the mother of the label itself. They even have Shout Select, which kind of puts out lesser known works of art and showcases those, and I'll talk about a Shout Select in a second. But they also have Scream Factory, and Scream Factory, just like the name suggests, is a horror-based kind of exploitation, B-movies. That's the stuff that they're going for, and that's the stuff that I can showcase here. So, for instance, I have two films that I really enjoy. One is kind of a more mainstream film, and the other one is a Hammer horror classic. And those are The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, and I also have The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires with Peter Cushing. But let's talk about The Thing first. This film is amazing, obviously. It's one of the greatest science fiction horror films of all time. It's my favorite horror film, I would say. But John Carpenter's The Thing is really great practical effects, and it also has really great performances. But the other thing about, why we're talking about boutique labels is the special features. This has 2 discs of special features for this movie that is like so big, it's so wonderful. And just like Arrow, it has reversible covers, and that's the really cool thing about that. There's some commissioned artwork probably. This one right here is the original theatrical poster. I prefer that one personally, but you can have the option of changing those out. Now, the other film that I mentioned earlier was The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires, which I already talked about Warner Archive a little bit earlier, but Scream Factory has the other Hammer Horror Dracula series. So it's pretty much split between the two. This is the last one that Hammer made with Peter Cushing, made in Hong Kong itself. But this is really great, and honestly, the thing about this is it has some really good special features itself, but it also has a reversible cover that reveals the alternate name. It's right here, it's the Seven Brothers Meet Dracula. It should be named The Seven Brothers and One Sister Meets Dracula's, but, wouldn't go good on a poster, I suppose. But yes, it's a really fantastic film company that has some really great works in horror to showcase. Now, these are just 2, like, maybe the more safe horror picks. There's a lot of other ones. There's some really great Italian horror films that exist as well. But let's actually move from Scream Factory to Shout Select. So here's a film that I really love and have been wanting to get on Blu-ray for a long time. And it just came out, I think, last year, The Plague Dogs. This is Richard Adams' adaptation. And Shout Select, like I said, it puts out works that are lesser known. And this is a really great animated film that the director, Martin Rosen, directed Watership Down. He also directed this because he was such a fan of Richard Adams' work, and he really wanted to showcase this, but this has never got a home, so it finally does, and it has some really great special features with it as well. And Shout Select is just really great too. I have several other Shout Selects from like The Big Sleep, the Robert Mitchum, etc. I'm just excited to delve further into those works. Let's move on now to my favorite boutique label. I bet you can't guess it. All right, have you guessed it? You know what it is. It's right behind me. It's the Criterion Collection. Started in 1984 with Laserdiscs, eventually getting to DVD, Blu-ray, even the Criterion channel. This has been the quintessential, in my opinion, this is the art house cinema, the important contemporary classics, as the Criterion Collection likes to say. These are the films that got me into like more and more like expansive knowledge of what a film wants to be for me. So right behind me, you have Zatoichi box set, Before trilogy, John Cassavetes. You have Jacques Tati, you have Jacques Demy right behind me. You even have Dietrich and von Sternberg in Hollywood. There's so much diversity in this collection that I'm just so excited to talk about. My first ever Criterion was Seven Samurai by Akira Kurosawa, which really got me into Japanese cinema, but world cinema in general, because I was just really excited to go outside the United States. Then I went to Ingmar Bergman. You know, that Ingmar Bergman box set came out only a few years ago, but it was so fundamental in cementing how important this collection is. So let me just showcase a few of those other titles that I like to represent the diversity of what the collection likes to represent. So first actually is a 1955 classic by the one and only directed film by Charles Lofton. That's The Night of the Hunter with Robert Mitchum. A fantastic, fantastic atmospheric horror film. I like to consider it a horror film. It's very scary. But there's an example of a film that exists. Also in the 50s is a world cinema classic, Ishiro Honda's Godzilla in 1954, in post-war Japan, post-bomb Japan, and really kind of explain ethical and environmental ethics, but eventually jumping into the Godzilla collection that would eventually Criterion would release, makes this collection know that they're not just serious, they also like to have a lot of fun with them as well. And so they like to showcase not just art house and really serious cinema, but it's also fun as well. I mean, that's why we have stuff like The Princess Bride or Breakfast Club in the collection, because, you know, it is important culturally to a lot of us, but at the same time, you can have a good laugh. There's a diversity to it. And then the last thing I want to showcase are the filmmakers, the auteurs, if you will. The filmmakers that I've been really getting into lately is Abbas Kiarostami's Coker trilogy. This, I mean, without Criterion, I would have not gotten into Akira Kurosawa, Ingmar Bergman, Agnes Varda, which is about to happen. I wouldn't have gotten to Roberto Rossellini. I wouldn't have got into Sajid Ray. I wouldn't have gotten into Kieslowski. There's so many different directors of world cinema that I've gotten into because of Criterion. And that's how I want to end this video. I want to say thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope that you learned something, and I also hope that you can tell me down in the comment section down below, what are some of your favorite boutique labels? What are some of your favorite things? Did I miss any of the labels that I'm just not very aware of? I want to hear down in the description down below, what are your thoughts on the boutique labels and why they're so important to us, and why they're so important to the preservation of these films and the, you know, restoration and exploration, as we like to say. So thank you very much again for watching this. Like this video, share it, don't forget to hit that notification bell and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. I'm not jonesing around.